The epistemological argument for God is as its name implies, Platonic epistemology applied to apologetics. So what is epistemology? Epistemology, in short, is the study of knowledge and how it relates to truth. This can be most easily understood by Plato's allegory of the cave, that goes like this. First, there are some people. These people are sitting in chairs that they are chained to. Not only that, but they are forced to stare at the wall of the cave that they are imprisoned in. Behind them is a wall that has an opening in it. Behind the opening is a walkway, and further behind that is a fire. The fire projects light through the hole onto the wall, which the imprisoned people are able to see, and anything that goes across the walkway in front of the fire casts a shadow onto the wall. To the imprisoned people, the shadows are their reality. Plato goes on to say that if one of the imprisoned were able to escape and see the fire, he would at first go blind and be unable to comprehend such an abstract concept. But after he understands, if he was to go back and try to educate the others, he would be ridiculed. This is not the important part, though. What we will be focusing on is the initial scenario. We know that what the imprisoned people see are mere shadows of a more perfect form that they are ignorant of. Essentially, we are the imprisoned people. What is actual to us is really just a shadow of a perfect version. The epistemological argument applies this to our ability to reason. This is similar to the transcendental argument in that it presupposes. Instead of wasting time trying to prove that we are capable of reason, it is assumed, which is a natural assumption for all debates. Instead of trying to figure out if rationality exists, the focus is where it comes from. If we apply Plato's allegory of the cave, it must mean there is a more perfect version of a reason that exists, since man's system of reason and justice is known to be flawed. So this perfect reason must come from somewhere outside of man's realm. The next part of the epistemological argument is the question, why does the human mind so easily understand and correlate to the world? This is really a response to the evolutionists' claim that reason and logic are merely tools that developed as we evolved, similar to growing an extra arm, in order to increase the ability to adapt to the world. It doesn't take much thinking, though, to find some errors in the evolutionists' argument. Firstly, if rationality was merely a product of evolution, why haven't there been other species that have evolved the ability to reason beyond instincts and personal experiences, since all of the other creatures supposedly evolved just like us? Wouldn't the other creatures need the same tools as us to increase their chance of survival? Maybe they are just not as evolved yet. But that would mean that humans are much, much older than any other life form, which completely contradicts evolution. It looks like humans were made specially apart from everything else. Even if the above errors were ignored, according to the evolutionist theory, only living beings are capable of anything logical, but this simply isn't true. Inanimate objects follow rationality. Planetary motion would not be predictable in any way if there was no logical sense to it. But the heavenly bodies are predictable and understandable, and in fact quite organized. To think that it is all created by random explosion of chance is irrational. When we see a garden, we know that there has to be a gardener who has put time and effort into creating it. Gardens do not just happen by random. If you have 1,000,000 acres of unworked land and leave the land alone, you will not find any gardens or orchards or any sense of order in what grows. If we see anything has order to it on earth, we naturally assume that someone created it, because that's what happened. Order doesn't just occur on any significant level. So if it's irrational to assume things like gardens or buildings or cars can be made without a designer, how can it be rational to apply something so impossible to the entirety of the universe? An absolute personality who created everything seems to be the only option. Finally, if logic was merely an aid to survival, then logically, it would mean that following reason to the T would result in the best outcome in life. But logic doesn't always bring the best outcome or make the best lives. If it were that way, then cockroaches ought to have better lives than humans, as they are better equipped for survival. But this is not so. Humans live much better lives than that of a cockroach. This would then conclude that a perfect someone must exist, which would be God. In short, because we reason, which is just a reflection of a perfect reasoning, God must exist because only He is perfect and capable of perfect reason.